Hello everyone, welcome to Adventures with Ollie. My name's Ollie, I use he, him pronouns, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about more about growing up as an undiagnosed autistic child and what that looked like for me. I am going to include a slight trigger content warning. I will be talking a little bit about things like corporal punishment and things along those lines. So if at any point in this video you become uncomfortable, please go ahead and skip ahead or, click off this video. If it makes you uncomfortable at all, that does not hurt my feelings. But hopefully this video helps some of you that may have struggled as a kid or, just anybody that needs to hear it. So let's get started. I also want to mention it's not my intention in this video at all to drag any family members through the mud. Some not so great things happened, but a lot of the people I'm talking about have since grown and learned more. So I am not here to trash talk my family in any way. These are just the facts of what happened growing up, and this is my story. So here we go. So first off, I want to start out by saying my family in general didn't believe in autism or mental illness. They didn't believe it existed, that they didn't believe those were things. They contributed those things to demons and demon possession and things like that. I was raised very, very fundamentalist, Christian religion. So any sort of things like medication or things like that were, well, not all medication, but like medication for, say, like mental illness or ADHD, things like that, highly frowned upon. They were very taboo. You didn't talk about it. You didn't go on it. You just tried to struggle your way through it, I guess, or, tried to fight those demons or whatever they thought was contributing to those things. I do remember knowing from a very early age that I was different from other kids. I didn't know why. I was often called, all the labels weird, or quirky is a big one that I hear people describe autistic people as quirky. I've never been a fan of that word. I don't know why. It's not an inherently bad word or anything, but, or an old soul, I was called that a lot. Yeah, a lot of labels. But weird and awkward were probably my biggest labels as a kid from other people. I used to have meltdowns from a pretty early age. Around 2 or 3, I started having meltdowns, due to, sensory issues or just, whatever was causing them. And I learned to mask very, very early on because I would be punished for meltdowns. So most of the time, practically all the time, it was corporal punishment. And I learned very, very quickly to mask and to melt down privately. So I would sort of mask as long as I could until I could escape and find a private place to have a meltdown. And I did this from hiding the meltdowns, I would say when I was about 4 is when I kind of taught myself how to do that. I also remember when I was maybe 10 or so, I started to suspect that's, again, I was different. Something was wrong with me. And I remember I had a cousin that is autistic. And I remember a family member saying that when they were diagnosed that they're not autistic, they just weren't spanked enough. And I remember hearing that, and it really troubled me. And I remember thinking, well, what if it's not that, he's diagnosed with this thing, and I wonder, what that means. And I began to become really curious about autism, and I didn't really suspect it in myself at that point, but I did wonder if I had something similar. But I never really was able to talk to my family about it because of our belief system. So I just sort of hid it for as well as I could. I was labeled kind of like, as far as, meltdowns and stuff. When I would have meltdowns, they would say, oh, well, he's just emotional, or he's just sensitive. I got emotional and sensitive all the time, when really that wasn't what was going on at all. But on to the other signs that aren't so traumatic. The kind of lighter side of my childhood autism, I was always kind of in my own world. So I very much thrived in playing alone, and, being by myself didn't bother me. I enjoyed it. I was always kind of on my own little adventure, like in my head, like things like that. And I didn't make friends very easily at first. As I grew older and I learned to mask more, I was able to sort of make a couple more friends, but I always kept and still do keep a very just sort of small and tight-knit friend group. I don't really need loads of friends to be happy. A lot of other kids thought I was weird or odd. When I was little, I loved to spin around. I would spin in the swings constantly, and it made me really happy. And when I was about 2, for a whole year of my life, I refused to walk anywhere. I would only bounce. So I was just boing, 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 bounce everywhere, much to my poor mother's chagrin, trying to drag me through the store as I bounce, bounce, bounce. So that was how I liked to stim as a toddler. I would watch things over and over and over again, and it would drive my family crazy, but, what can you do? I used to sing certain songs. So my first special interest ever was Barney the dinosaur. It was the early 90s, so Barney was pretty big, and I used to sing the songs over and over again all day long. So there is a home video of me singing the Barney song, just saying, you, over and over again. And in the video, my parents are trying to get me to sing anything else. So they scoop me up and they're like, come on, let's sing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And they sing it with me. And then I would sing it for a minute, and then they would stop. And immediately I would go back to, you. It was quite funny. But so that was definitely my first special interest. I talked about this a little bit in my first video, but you couldn't really hear it, so I'll just briefly go over it again. I used to speak in movie quotes constantly. I would learn my facial expressions from cartoons, which often made for some interesting exchanges. I loved to dress up as different characters and just pretend I was basically anybody else. I remember I dressed up for a long time, probably maybe longer than was healthy. When I was about maybe, I want to say 11 or so, I was outside of my house in my neighborhood on my bike, and I was dressed up like a cowboy because that's what I was that day. And my bike was my horse, and I was having a great time just playing alone, on my cowboy adventure. And then this car drove by and slowed down, and this kid hung out the window and screamed "Yeehaw" at me. And I remember I was so embarrassed and so humiliated that I went inside, and I never dressed up again outside of my house ever, which is kind of sad. But I will never forget that moment. And so from then on, that's from about 11, that's when the heavy masking started. And I did, I was bullied in school quite a bit, but that didn't mean I had no friends. I did have a couple really close friends. I suspect one of them is probably also neurodivergent. But we had a good time. Like I said, as far as like dressing up, like I said, I stopped dressing up in, outside my house, but with my friends, we would get together and we would make historically accurate storylines of like games we were playing, and we would research a topic and we would learn like, oh, well, this week we're going to be these orphans in like this Romanian orphanage in the 1800s, and we're going to escape and go on this huge adventure. And so we would research all the stuff to make sure it was as accurate as possible. So that was a lot of fun. A little bit nerdy, but a lot of fun. So that's how I played as a child. I also remember being bullied for being into things that I was considered too old for. So, for instance, when I was in second grade, I was obsessed with the Teletubbies, and I had a Teletubby cup that I brought to school in my lunchbox. And I remember the kids saw it and they started giving me a really hard time because I was 7, and, Teletubbies was considered like for toddlers. So I was super embarrassed about that again, never brought that cup to school again, completely kind of shut down that point in my life, and tried to fit in with what the other kids were into. Some other special interests that I had as a kid were Neopets, and I would play Neopets for just hours on end. I absolutely loved it. I actually tried to make a new Neopets recently, and it's just full of ads everywhere. It just took all the joy out of it for me, and I was like, man, that was such a cool thing, and then they made it awful. So little sad about that. But I used to build houses for my I had a bunch of McDonald's Neopets when the Happy Meals came out. I collected a bunch of them. So I would take like cardboard boxes, bookshelves. I would build them furniture out of like paper towel rolls and stuff. I was constantly building things as a kid. That was my favorite thing to do. I would build things for my toys more than I would play with the actual toys. But it was a lot of fun. I still enjoy making things and crafting whenever I can. I guess those are some things that sort of stand out for me that were signs of my neurodivergence. But one thing I want to say is when I got to high school was hard. It's not fun being weird in high school, so I masked hardcore. I tried to conform to what everyone else was doing. I got pretty good at it by that time, to where I would say that I wasn't myself in high school. I was just what everyone else was, and I feel kind of sad for my high school self that I wasn't able to live authentically, and it wasn't a happy time. It caused a lot of depression and a lot of just really dark things in my life from that. But going from there, if anybody out there is struggling, if you feel like you don't fit in, I just want to tell you, you know what? It doesn't matter. You should be yourself always. And if you find yourself masking so hard that you lose yourself, that's a perfect time to discover who you are. It is hard to unmask and it takes time, but I would encourage you to start with maybe getting back into those things that brought you joy as a child. That helped me tremendously in learning to unmask. So, you know what? If people say you're too old for it, don't listen to them. That's silly. If it brings you joy, then enjoy it. You should be able to like what you like. I'm a 30-year-old man, and I love Sesame Street. Classic Sesame Street more so than modern Sesame Street, although I've seen both. But I love anything Jim Henson. So Fraggle Rock, The Muppets. I love the classic Winnie the Pooh series. I think it is so wholesome and sweet, and it brings me joy. I love stuffed animals and Play-Doh. Like I am allowing myself in my older age to really just experience and appreciate those things that brought me joy. I tried to enjoy Neopets again, but again, that was kind of ruined by all the ads on the site, sadly. But I still enjoy collecting the figures and drawing different Neopets and things like that. So in a way, I found a way to continue to enjoy them. But if anybody out there is, if maybe you're in high school and you're having a hard time, I just encourage you to be yourself. And when you're yourself, you're going to attract the people that love you for you, and you'll be able to be comfortable around them. And those are the real kinds of friends you want. The fake friends that are only there when you're masking, it's not real. It's not fulfilling, and it's exhausting to have to hold on to those personas that aren't the genuine you. So I just encourage anybody today that is just having a hard time to just embrace yourself, learn to love yourself, be gentle with yourself, and eventually, you'll grow into feeling comfortable with who you are. And that is such an exciting moment, an exciting time to be in. So that's really all I have to say in this video. This is part 1 of a series, so I am going to make a couple other videos about childhood. So I do want to talk about my childhood experiences with bipolar disorder, as well as my childhood experiences growing up as a trans kid. So be on the lookout for those. After that, I intend to make an adulthood series as well. So lots of good content coming up. I'm going to try my darndest to post every Thursday. I'm trying to hold myself accountable to that. So if something does come up, I will announce it. But yes, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you like what I have to say, subscribe, leave a comment. If you have any questions or anything you want me to talk about, I will definitely look at those, and I will consider it'll help me make more videos. So thanks again for watching. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.